Lucky you. It's got that new budget smell.
New binder?
Let's see if I can go find the CIP.
Yeah,
Look at the index, that would be helpful. Oh, no.
Yeah, let's use the index.
There it is, 25. All right, here we go. Good evening, everyone. It is 6 o'clock, and today is not August 19th. What have I done? Today is September 2nd, 2025. It is 6 o'clock, and this is the regular meeting of the Township Board of the Charter Township of Meridian. First on our agenda this evening is a Pledge of Allegiance. Will those who are able please rise and join us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3 on our agenda is roll call. Will Clerk Demas please call the roll?
Supervisor Hendrickson.
Here.
Clerk Demas, here. Treasurer DeShane.
Here.
Trustee Lentz.
Here.
Trustee Sunland. Trustee Trezise.
Here.
Trustee Wilson.
Here.
6 board members present.
Thank you very much. Item 4A is presentation this evening. We have a new firefighter with us. We have Chief Hamill here to introduce her.
Supervisor and board, thank you. Again, as always, I'm always excited when we get a new employee because I remember back in the day when, well, I was a little older than her. She's only 19, so she's very energetic. This is Caitlin Thomas. Caitlin was from Green Oak Township. She actually took her EMT and her fire during high school. They offer a program out there, and she started very young, and then as soon as she graduated, she was able to take the state test and get certified as a firefighter EMT. So when we interviewed her, she interviewed very well. She very energetic and just a lot of background that we look for someone who really wants to learn and be a part of a program that's kind of advancing and trying to get better every day. So she played volleyball in high school and a little bit of soccer, right? All right. She doesn't remember me reffing her though, and I know I reffed her a couple years ago, but anyway, she would have remembered if I would have made a bad call, right? But this is Caitlin, and we're really excited to have her, so.
Welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome to the team.
Welcome.
Next on our agenda is another presentation, this one from Consumers Energy. And to do a quick introduction, we have Deputy Manager Dan Opsmer.
Good evening, Supervisor Hendrickson and board members. So tonight, Consumers Energy, we have Dave Patterson here. I'll turn it over to him momentarily. Dave's going to give you an overview of the Renewable Energy Program. This is a new program in the state of Michigan, as the state has changed state law to try to set new standards for renewable energy production statewide. And so this program is governed by the Michigan Public Service Commission. just as an FYI. And as Dave walks you through the presentation, a couple of things to keep in mind. One, this is really an alternative to what we are currently doing, right? So keep that at the forefront as you're listening to Dave's presentation. Right now, we are constructing our own solar arrays that generate energy that we use here to try to get to net zero carbon emissions, right? Our goal in the climate sustainability plan is to one day, or as the plan states by 2035, generate 100% of our renewable energy. Some things to keep in mind, we do have 31 lift stations scattered throughout the township and our streetlights. It's going to be near impossible to generate the energy for those sources, right? Our lift stations don't have an abundance of land located next to them where solar arrays could be constructed. And streetlights, likewise, do not have land available near them, right? So our facilities are very easy. It gets harder when we get to those. So this is a new program that would be an alternative to what we're currently doing, right? We would be investing in solar arrays elsewhere in Michigan and offsetting 100% of our carbon footprint, whereas today, we might someday get to the point where we can offset most, but offsetting 100% of our carbon footprint probably is going to be near impossible when you factor in some of the complexities like streetlights and lift stations. A little bit more background. Staff have met with Consumers Energy. The East Lansing Meridian Water and Sewer Authority has also met with Consumers Energy. We've also met with some of the customers or some of the Consumers Energy customers who have opted in on this program specifically. Staff also have some ideas and some thoughts on how we would vet this. Dave will probably talk tonight about a September deadline that's coming up for the current year. But we anticipate that next year there will be availability as well. We're not in a rush, the township is not, but the purpose of tonight's agenda item is simply to introduce the concept to you all and gauge your initial feedback and whether or not you want us to explore it further, constructive feedback that you have. So this is really just the jumping off point. This is not a opt-in, opt-out scenario. This is, let's start evaluating this. So, any questions at this time?
I think we'll hear from Dave and then we'll come back at the end. Thank you.
Dave, take it away.
I think Dan said everything I want to say.
Oh, so my bad.
Good evening, board. Good evening, everyone else in attendance. My name is Dave Patterson. I'm with Consumers Energy. My official title is Senior Energy Solutions Manager, fancy title for account manager. And I have this area, the township of Meridian and the surrounding area. And in my job at Consumers Energy, the best way I could describe it is a liaison between the community and Consumers Energy. And that's handling everything from escalated customer service to inform you of our new programs, such as our renewable energy program that Dan spoke about. So today, that's what we'll talk about. I have a brief PowerPoint that I'll share with you. I think everybody has a line of sight to a screen. So again, renewable energy program. Consumers Energy has an internal goal to be carbon neutral by 2035. And what we found is many townships, cities, businesses, or entities also have a goal to be carbon free or carbon neutral by a certain date. So as we continue our journey, we've opened the program to allow townships, businesses to partner with us on the journey. And through the program, I'll share with you what that looks like. So let me get my readers first. My apologies. That's too far and this is too close. So this will help me out. So our program works because it's local. So by partnering with the program, you're helping to build the renewable grid here in Michigan. It's flexible. And what that means is you can enroll anywhere from 1% to 100% of your eligible accounts. So say you may already have a certain amount, 10% that are coming from your solar field. And you say, hey, we just need to offset 90%. The program allows for that. The program is very flexible. It's cost effective. When you look at other solutions, and this is exactly what this is, it's a solution, alternative to solar fields, wind fields, you put a turbine in your front yard, or you build a solar field, that requires a large capital investment, typically upfront. And when you vet those ideas and you look at the ROI, it can be a long time on the payback. So with our program, it's a subscription-based program. You pay monthly. There's no upfront construction fees, and it's fully managed by Consumers Energy. So we manage the asset, we handle everything, and you receive the benefits. The benefits that I'll talk about this evening are called renewable energy certificates or credits. So basically carbon accounting. What that does is it's an attestation. You enroll in the program at 100% that the Township of Meridian purchased 100% renewable energy from Consumers Energy. That attestation allows you to share it with the government, other agencies. As you attract business to the township, you're able to say, hey, we're partnering with consumers to build the renewable grid of the future, and here's how we're doing it. So what this talks about is the process. The first step is, one, to hear about the program, which you'll do tonight, vet the program, find out if it makes sense for the township. Once you've done that, we are currently constructing solar and wind developments. The next development that we're signing people up or people are subscribing to is coming online in 2028. You'll see at the very end where all of our developments are currently, but that's the current development we have that we vetted the cost, and you'll see the cost built in here. Consumers Energy enters into the MISO market. So MISO is an organization that manages our grid. They have a really cool app that anybody can go online, go to the App Store and download on your phone. You can go to the website. It's Michigan and 13 other states and Manitoba. So we all partner in pushing energy to the grid. We share and share alike. When there's a need, we support each other. So MISO manages the program, and as Dan mentioned, the program is under Michigan Public Service Commission, so very regulated. And as I mentioned at the end, the RECs are the end. That's what you're able to say, hey, this is how we purchase renewable energy. Someone may say, well, I can't see where you're purchasing it from, right? I don't see a wind farm, or I don't see a solar panel. What you'll do is you'll see the renewable energy credits. So Dan spoke of other customers, which I believe you've had the opportunity to speak to a couple. But here at the bottom, current customers enrolled: the state of Michigan, Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, East Grand Rapids, Firekeepers Casino, Michigan State University, General Motors, and Walmart. And these are the more recent ones, and just to name a few. There are others enrolled in the program. And I'll stop. Any questions? I feel like I'm moving fast here, so please stop me. All right. So this slide here, what it speaks to. Through the program, you have the opportunity to enroll. Is that really small? Can you all see it? Fairly decent? Okay. What you have the opportunity to do is to enroll into an agreement for a term of 5, 10, 15, or 20 years. And the best way I can describe it is you would lease space in our renewable development for that amount of time. So right now, the way we have it figured, it's a little over 1 million kilowatt hours of energy for all of the accounts in the township. So if you go in at 100%, a megawatt is 1 million kilowatt hours. You would enroll at a megawatt, and you would choose to lease it for 5, 10, 15, or 20 years, whatever makes the most sense for the township. You pay a subscription fee, which is at the top. It says estimated subscription fee, which is $64 a megawatt hour. How we came to that conclusion was when we bid out the job, the cost of energy and everything that went into the development in 2028, that's the figure that we came to for the subscription fee. Now, what you see for the years are years 1 through 20, and this is assuming you go with a 20-year agreement, and I'll move the slide up so you can see the bottom. If you were to take your usage, that 1,034,635, and multiply it by the $64 a megawatt hour, you come out with the $66,217 per year for your subscription fee. Now, the energy that's generated on your behalf, that megawatt of energy in our development, you pay a subscription fee. Consumers Energy, on your behalf, sells it into the MISO energy market. The revenue that comes back goes to offset your subscription fee. So if you look at the column that says savings, energy capacity, and credits, that's the revenue that we are forecasting, and I'll talk about how we forecast that will come in each year. The column in red, this annual net savings, red is where you would pay a premium, black is where you would receive a credit. So if you move to the very bottom, where it's at bottom left for me, where it says 20 years, if you go all the way over to the net savings, over a term of 20 years, if you were to enroll in the program at 100%, you would receive a credit of $82,000. So you would not pay overall to be in the program. Now, I'll go back up, and if you look at the years 1 through 20, there are years where you would pay, right? So if you look at the first year, I believe it's $4,252. So if you divide that by 12 months, that's essentially what you would pay to be in the program, a little less than $400 a month amongst all of the different accounts that you have. Now, going back to the bottom, the number of years, the terms, the agreement, you have 15 years, 10 years, and 5 years. So I'll look at 20 and I'll look at 5, and you can kind of look in between. So 5 may be for a township or a business that just wants to bridge the gap, right? Maybe they have something else planned for the future, but they need to meet this to reach their internal goals. So if you look at the 5-year plan, if you move over to the net savings or the premium, to be enrolled in the program for 5 years, you would pay a net premium of $11,000. But again, if you divide that by 60 months, it comes out to $193 a month to participate in the program. So I'll pause there for a second, because this is really the meat. And I want to make sure that everyone has a decent understanding, because this is a very high-level overview. So I'll pause there for any questions.
Treasurer DeShane.
It appears the savings really happen in years 14 through 20, or they benefit to us. But there's also early years and middle years where it's not a progressive chart.
Yeah.
Why do these numbers jump around like that?
Dan, that's the very same question, and I have an email that I can pull up and I'll read. So this will take me to the forecasting agencies that we use. We use Siemens, we use IHS, and Argus, ARGUS. These are the industry-leading energy forecasting agencies. So they take into account what they believe the demand for energy will be, the entry of electric vehicles into the market, the cost of natural gas now, and what is forecasted to be in the future. So I can't speak directly to, but I can share an email on their forecasting. In certain years, they believe it will be because of inflation and a lot of natural gas, which was the case during COVID from 2020 to 2024. So there's different factors that factor in. So my apologies that I can't answer it directly, but Siemens is available at any time to hold a meeting with the township to dig a little deeper into how they forecast. But again, this is a forecast. And what Consumers has done is we've moved on the very conservative side, right? As opposed to numbers that show a large credit, because we know this can change. So we took a conservative stance. As we know, townships have a limited budget. Businesses, you're forecasting, right? So 5, 10, 15, 20 years, we want to be as safe as possible. We can't be exact, but to be as safe as possible in terms of the forecasting. And Consumers has been around for a very long time. We're not going anywhere. We're regulated, and certainly our goal is not to have anyone to overpay. So we try to forecast as closely to what the experts say, and then our internal accounting department.
Great. In terms of the kilowatt hours subscribed, 20,000 there's like about a million kilowatt hours, 1,034,000.
Yeah.
How much do we generate currently, Dan, with our current solar arrays?
I do not have that answer right off the top of my head, but the 1 million kilowatt hours that you see there is the current demand. So those are the kilowatt hours that we're purchasing directly from consumers. We've offset about, I believe, 35%
Okay,
of our energy consumption, so about 350,000 kilowatt
so this is
hours.
what's left that
Ballpark?
we're not
Yes.
generating with solar. Okay, that
Correct.
answers my question.
Yep, and one important note here, and Dave can clarify this, but my understanding of the program, I know this to be true for sure, we have to have an aggregate energy demand of 1 million kilowatt hours in order to enroll in this program. So we are like the minimum size customer that can enroll. By aggregate, I mean you're taking all of our accounts, all the streetlight accounts, the welcome signs, down to the facilities, right? So when you see that 1 million kilowatt hours, that's all of our accounts aggregated. Then the question that I'll kick to Dave here in a moment is, can we enter in at a percentage basis? So could we enter in at 20%? I believe the answer may be no, but I'll turn it over to Dave to answer that one.
Okay. Thank you. So Dan mentioned that the threshold or the minimum is 1 million kilowatt hours. So you're right there, and that's aggregated. So that's taking the municipal courthouse, the lift stations, and the different accounts, and adding those up. So you have to go into the program at least 1 million kilowatt hours. Now, the program is flexible. It grows and shrinks with you, all right? So the goal is for you to become more energy efficient. So as you move on your journey, you enroll at 1 million kilowatt hours, and you do renovations here, right? You get new LED lighting, and you drop under 1 million kilowatt hours. That's great, all right? Because you're using less energy, your carbon footprint is smaller. It's great for everybody. Believe it or not, Consumers Energy wants people to use less energy, right? I've been here 4 years, and you could not have told me that before. I was thought, hey, the more energy, the more money we make. But we make our money a different way, off of the assets and different things. So my job, a big part of my job, is to meet with townships and businesses to say, how can we help you become more efficient? So I hope that answers your question. You can't enter in at 20% of the 1 million. You have to enter in at the 1 million. But again, if you shrink, it's great. Now, if for some instance, for some reason, you grow substantially, we have to monitor that, because we try to size enrollment exactly, right? So at this particular development at $64 a megawatt hour, if you're in at 1 million, another city is in at 1 million, and that development is full, if there's space in the development that's the same price, we'll certainly place you there. But if not, you may roll to another project which may be at a different price. Because as we know, 2 years, 3 years down the road, construction costs and things more than likely will increase, and so may the subscription fee.
One last question. If we had a completely battery-powered fleet right now, have you estimated how many hours that would take to power all of our vehicles, that if 10 years from now we were all completely electric?
I cannot, but I can take that and put it in my parking lot and respond to everyone here with an answer. I am very big on not giving information that I am unsure of, and that's an answer that I do not know offhand. My apologies, but I want to make sure. And I don't have my pen, but I'll get you. You have a battery-powered fleet, EV, and you said you want to know in 10 years?
How many kilowatt hours it would take to power that fleet? And Dan can give you the information on the size of our fleet and so forth.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There's one additional slide that I did.
I do think we have one other question from trustee Lentz here.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Lentz.
Yeah, thank you. So going off of the question by Treasurer DeShane here, let's say we do completely electrify our fleet, add a new building. We're currently at that 1 million cap. Does this contract signing on that dotted line put us at that 1 million and then automatically adjusted so that when we electrify that whole fleet, we have no choice but to join in at a higher contract amount potentially, or can we start right now at 100%, and then as we grow, maybe at the end of this 20-year cycle, we're still offsetting that million kilowatt hour, even though that's now only 50% of our usage. Does that make sense?
I believe it does. I'm going to take a stab at answering it. So to go back to the beginning of your question, if you electrify your fleet, you're going to use more energy, right? Mm-hmm. So if you enroll at $1 million, again, as we try to right-size customers going into the program, you can enroll. It's going to be tough. It really depends on how much space there is left in the program. We can't reserve space up front, if that makes sense.
So what I'm saying is, are we able to, if we wanted to, just say we are good with the million, that achieves our goals now, and then, in the future, continue at only 1 million? Just using round numbers, of course.
Yeah, you can do that. But okay, if you were using more energy, you would still have a carbon footprint, right? Yeah. That you would somehow want to offset.
Ideally, yes. I would imagine we would want to look at the subscription cost when that would come up. But okay, that does answer my question. Thank you.
So as sort of a corollary to that, this, just to clarify, would replace a usage-based billing system essentially, right?
Great question. I'm moving to that one next.
Okay, I'll let you do that then.
All right. So how the program works is, this is an add-on, or it's on top of your bill. So you would continue to receive your normal bill, whatever rates you're in. We do what we call yearly rate analysis. We did our first one this year, where I'll meet with the team and say, hey, our rates have changed. The municipal building was on a primary rate or a secondary rate. Here's a better available rate, right? We'll continue to do that every year. What will happen is you'll have your normal charges, as you see in the blue. You'll have your subscription fee for the program, which will be this area here. This will be an add-on, and I'm sorry if you can't see my cursor. It doesn't look like you can. And then you will have the energy credits and the capacity credits. So the math will come between your subscription fee and the energy and capacity credits, and then you'll have the charges, whether there would be a premium, meaning you would pay that particular month for the program, or whether there would be a credit. So you will continue to pay your normal bill every month. This is an add-on top of your bill. Did that answer your question?
Oh, it definitely answered my question, yes.
Okay. The last slide that
I'm sorry, as a follow-up,
Sure.
If we subscribe at the $1 million, we are currently in the process of building a solar array at our North Fire Station. It's not online yet. It will be. We are eventually going to do that in the next couple of months, hopefully, or next year or so. And when we do, that will bring our kilowatt hours down. Okay. Does our subscription fee decrease commensurate with the actual usage once that comes online?
It will. However, remember the threshold is $1 million.
Yeah, but we came in at $1 million.
Yeah, yes.
Under this scenario, we came in at $1 million
Yes.
today, let's just say.
Yes.
And then we build a solar array, and now we're less than $1 million. The subscription fee comes down with the actual kilowatt usage reserved, right?
It does. It shrinks with you. So if it goes to 950,000 instead of $1 million, you've already met the threshold. You've entered the program. Now your subscription fee would be $64 a megawatt hour times 950 kilowatt hours instead of $1 million and whatever the number was there.
And so, these savings that you've projected the agencies have projected on the table that you were showing us a moment ago.
Yeah.
They're projections.
Absolutely.
Right? And they are victim to market forces, as any economic projections are. Whereas the subscription fee is not.
Yeah, the subscription fee is set.
What's to say that actually the savings that we would receive aren't much lower as many more communities come online and supply of the energy is vastly higher than what perhaps you maybe intended or expected?
Okay. And let me actually step back to the $64 per megawatt hour. So that price is set for your agreement. Once you get into the program and everything is reconciled, if it turns out to be lower, you'll get charged a lower price. if it turns out to be, and I forget the exact number, I'll get it to you, higher, there's an out for you in the actual program. So if that's 64 megawatt hour, if we're off on that.
Sure.
And that's higher by a certain percentage, you have an out of the program. But if it's lower, you get the lower price.
Sure.
And then the second part, could you repeat the second part to your question?
So if the savings projections are actually lower than what we expected, what then?
So again, you mentioned there's a risk involved, right? So we can't guarantee what they would be. So if it moves higher, you would be subject to paying a premium. If it's lower, you would be subject to a credit, an
Right.
additional credit.
No, okay. So that is subject to, to the fluctuations of the market.
It is. I liken it to a 401k or a similar program where we invest and we try to use all the tools that we have at hand to best judge what the returns will be with all the information that we have, but we don't know for certain.
Yeah, I guess my curiosity would be around, how supply and demand of renewable energy affects the cost on the energy market. Does it work in the way that everything else does?
It does. And
Okay.
actually, I have an email that I'll share with if it's okay to share, the email that we sent. I can share with the team where it speaks to years 1 through 10 and why we believe the forecast, or why Siemens believe the forecasting will be such.
Yeah.
And it speaks to inflation or the entry of EVs into the market. It speaks to the different items that would adjust or cause it to go up or down.
Yeah, I guess my concern would be, we expect your program to be wildly successful, let's say. You get a ton of communities and a ton of businesses on board with signing up for this. Now you're in production on a ton of new renewable, farms throughout the state. And all of a sudden, energy supply that you're selling into
MISO?
MISO, is way up. Economics tells us that pushes the price, down. And so my concern would be the savings that you get for having done that would be significantly lower over time because you're expanding the amount of supply that you've got.
So the MPSC, Michigan Public Service Commission, only allows us to build as we receive subscribership, right? So we can't go out and overbuild if we don't have customers to fill the program. So that's keeping us honest, not that we will be honest anyway, but we can only subscribe to what we have built, right? So we can't go out and build 3 new solar fields and we don't have the customers to fill it. If that makes sense, if that kind of helps.
I don't
Maybe
think-
I'm
I don't
missing the
think it
question.
fully addresses what my concern is, but I understand where you're going with that, so thank you.
And my apologies, I'll get with you to better understand your question and get you an answer for that.
Okay.
Dave, 1 second, real
Yeah.
quick. Supervisor Hendrickson, just to clarify too, when Dave was referring to the subscription fee and the opt-out, so the project hasn't been bidded yet, right? So the solar project is going to be bidded probably in the next 12 months. Then all of the costs will be known, right? So just like a drain project or the Lake Lansing Dam, once we have all the costs, then that subscription fee will be finalized. But if we were to opt in, right, let's say we signed on the dotted line, we're opted in, there is an opt-out if the subscription fee were to eclipse a 10% increase on the $64 per megawatt hour. So
Totally
that's the
understand.
opt-out.
And my concern is, I believe, based on what we've heard here, that the things that consumers can control, we are in relatively good standing for in terms of the ability to exit if we have to. My concern is we're being pitched something that costs X and will gain us benefit Y. Costs, there are outs for.
Yep.
If the benefits aren't there, there are no outs. It's simply, well, the market changed. And my concern is, if we're being told, oh, well, if we just pay the $66,000 in year 20, we'll be making 17,000. There's absolutely no guarantee of that because the forecasts can change. The market can change a lot in 20 years.
Yep.
And so it's great to see projections. I mean, you can also project that the stock market will never go down, but we've seen that that's not the case.
And you've zeroed in exactly on what staff are going to do more due diligence on and what has been the topic of all of our conversations with some of their subscribers, right? So that's exactly where our thought process is as well. The one thing, as I've reflected on those initial meetings, The subscription cost over 20 years being 1.3 million, there's not a lot of fiscal risk in this program. It would cost that much just to finish, just to construct solar arrays for the public safety building or the police department building and this building, right? Just to finish building out these two facilities would cost that much. So even if we got 0 energy credits, if we achieve our goal and we eliminate 431 metric tons of CO2, right, our carbon footprint, we have achieved a goal. So just something to keep in mind, right? The downside risk relative to constructing assets that have to be maintained in perpetuity, right? Solar panels have about 20 years for their life cycle, not very long. We're already looking at 2037 being the replacement year, and that'd be the very end of the life cycle, right, for the array, our first array at Central Park and Marsh. So just kind of the big holistic picture as I thought more through this, the total investment is not that significant when you look at the capital outlay cost. So
Right,
the
but-
economy of scale that we can achieve through.
You're
a
also,
program.
you're also, in addition to the environmental benefit and being able to say, we have paid for 100% renewable, you're also looking at, are we receiving any fiscal benefit for having done so? And this is on top of what we're already paying in our energy consumption anyway.
Yep,
And so we're asking basically, I think personally, I believe there's a value in being able to say, we actually are generating it here. And it's being used to both clean our energy for what we use and also defray our costs, in the overtime for the actual consumption of that energy. But
yep. And I figured that would be the crux of this entire discussion as to whether or not we proceed or not. We've already hit on all the key factors, right? Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. So this slide here speaks, this is where we land, basically what you mentioned. So the benefits are Michigan-based energy and production. You can all read here. But really what you look at it is the blue, right? You just mentioned it. Resources are not on site. But again, how the energy market in large works are renewable energy certificates. If you're not familiar with them, you can look them up. This is really how the transactions are made. And then the other portion is, as you mentioned, is market risk, right? I can't guarantee you that the numbers will hold true. We can just use the best information that we have and that the experts have given us to forecast the information. So, as I mentioned here, the current program is projected to bid at $64 a megawatt hour. As Dan mentioned, once everything comes in and the cost is shored up, that's where you have the opportunity to exit and or receive the benefits of additional savings if it comes in lower. That program enrollment ends in September. We are not fully subscribed to the program now, but the only way to truly guarantee is to get in before the end of September, but we do believe there will be additional space left over after. And again, we believe this is the way forward. This is what Consumers Energy's Clean Energy Plan states. This is our path forward, and we would love to have you all partner with us. And that is all that I've had. Any questions, comments?
board members, any additional questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I just want to make sure I got your question about the battery power fleet. And was there another question? I believe did we completely answer yours, or?
I think I've got what I need. Thank
You
you.
got what you need? Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda is item 5, citizens address agenda items and non-agenda items. There are several opportunities for public comment at tonight's meeting. Members of the public who wish to address our agenda or any item not on our agenda have an opportunity to do so at the beginning of the meeting as well as near the end of the meeting. Those who wish to address the board must complete a green card, which you can find on the table by the door. When it's your turn, I'll call you up to the podium to speak to the topics indicated. While it's not required, it's helpful for the sake of our meeting minutes if you provide your name and address for the record at the beginning of your remarks. Citizens are required to limit comments to 3 minutes. An automated system will keep track of the time, and an indicator light and an audible beep will alert you when your time has expired. Members of the board value public comment and input from our public. The meeting format and rules, however, do restrict board members from engaging in conversation with commenters or answering questions directly. All questions and concerns may be addressed by board members at a later time, or may be referred to a member of the township staff to follow up on. Please remember to address all comments to the board and/or the board's chair and not to individual members of the board or to others in the audience. With that said, we do have several green cards this evening. First up is Paulette Grace, and then Rahman S. is on deck. We ask that you go one at a time if you could. Paulette?
Good evening. My name is Paulette Grace, and I reside at 4824 Nassau Street in Central Park Estates. My comments here tonight express my opposition to the proposed development at Central Park Estates by Continental Properties. In my opinion, the proposal does not align with the township's master plan as outlined in 2023. The master plan emphasizes several objectives: preserving the character of existing single-family residential neighborhoods, investigating the establishment of woodlands ordinance to protect local woodlots, enhancing walkability within neighborhoods and developments. Eliminating the wooded areas at Central Park Estates would not maintain neighborhood character, protect current woodlots and wildlife habitats, or promote walkability. In addition to this, the anticipated increase in traffic will exacerbate existing congestion and safety concerns unless a comprehensive road improvement plan is made, and that's an issue that has not been addressed. Inserting over 300 units along with new parking and amenities will undoubtedly negatively affect community safety, security, and the quality of life. In addition, the proposed development does not meet high standards for quality construction or aesthetic compatibility with the surrounding areas. While the developer has previously completed higher quality projects and executive level projects elsewhere, they have elected not to do so in Meridian Township. According to the master plan, residents place high value on the community's natural features, including wetlands, publicly accessible lakes, and preserved open spaces, all of which contribute to the township's reputation for environmental stewardship. As elected officials, you are responsible for supporting initiatives that reflect these values and for denying to approve those developments that do not conform to them. While I understand the township's interest in accommodating new development, there are many other suitable sites that could be considered. Increasing residential density at this location conflicts directly with the expressed desires of township residents. I urge the Township Board and Planning Commission to uphold the objectives of the master plan and deny approval for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Rahman S., and then Michael Inga.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening to us. I agree with whatever Paulette she said. I would like to bring three main points here, which are important. The first one is that the variance has happened quite a few times. It was a professional and office designated area. Then it moved from there to the next level. And so these variances basically slowly and steadily are changing the character of what it was supposed to be done on that land. And in addition to traffic issues, which she mentioned, we do have, basically it's kind of mixing apples and oranges. All the development around that area is not apartment complex. I mean, there are some, it's not like so close. And then the third one is that environmental effect is also, we should consider that. And I think we all sent emails from the neighborhood, and you might have seen all those, and they are valid objections. Again, I would request you to please consider carefully this request and do what is best for the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Michael Inga, and that's the last green card I have. If anyone else wishes to address the board, if you could please turn a green card in to the staff, and they'll bring it up to us if you would. You can just hand it to someone back there.
Hello, honorable members of the board. My name is Michael Inga. I'm a former resident of Meridian Township. My address is 903 North Sycamore in Lansing now. And so I am here again to follow up on the public safety issue I raised a few weeks ago. My previous FOIA request was for public records that could confirm the suspicion of your own code official regarding a public health concern, cross-contamination at my former apartment complex. While I have received some documents after a series of ignored emails and denial of requested documents through FOIA, I filed formal appeals. I have since received a letter from the township manager, the highest administrative official in this township, stating that my request has been fulfilled. However, despite this official letter, crucial documents, including plumbing schematics, have still not been provided. A member of the public should not have to go through multiple appeals and receive a legalese-filled letter from the township manager to get a clear answer on a public health issue. This raises serious questions about the township's commitment to transparency and public safety. I have documents that show within 5 days of my FOIA request, an official from the Community Planning Division contacted the landlord about the cross-contamination issue. This action, which resulted in a new document that contradicts the original report, raises serious questions about the township's impartiality. And it caused the landlord to investigate themselves, and they found themselves that they didn't do anything wrong. Furthermore, my electrical complaint that that same property was left with a partially complied status for over a year without any apparent fines or consequences for the corporate landlord. This appears to be a pattern of behavior that grants special treatment to a corporate entity, treatment that homeowners and smaller landlords in this community do not receive. While I have been pursuing answers to these health and safety concerns, your community planning director has been spending time and taxpayer resources on matters like rooster legislation. The township's conduct in this matter shows a disturbing pattern of obstructing a citizen's right to information. This is not just a clerical error, it's a systemic problem that appears to come from the highest levels of our local government. I am here to demand accountability and ensure this is no longer ignored. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Vincent Tomanica. And that's the last green card I've got. If anyone else would like to address the board, now would be the time to fill out those green cards.
I have a few different topics here. Has the township board considered the impact upon local schools? My child attends Chippewa Middle School. He reports to me that the teacher-student ratio is approximately 30-1 in the classes. In one class, the ratio is 45-1. As a teacher myself, I know these are high ratios, and the schools are required to take on any additional students who enter the district. From that perspective, Okemos does not need more population in this area and can only sustain it by weakening our educational outcome. When we moved to Okemos, two things that drew us here, as has drawn many people here, is not only the aesthetic of the preserves, the wildlife preserves, but also the schools. The Okemos schools are famous for their educational outcome. And more population is going to weaken educational outcome. The schools realistically cannot sustain wave after wave of additional students. They're already going to have to absorb the students from the very big condo complex that is opening a quarter mile south of Central Park Estates off Marsh Road. I think it's called Grand Reserve. The proposed 300-unit Authentic Okemos apartments would add many more students to already crowded schools. The new influx of residents would also complicate a traffic situation which is already overly congested and arguably dangerous at the very spot where Authentic Okemos is proposed to be built. Everyone at CPE, that's the acronym for Central Park Estates, is aware of the accidents and near misses at the bend in Central Park Drive where MSU Credit Union is located, and the turnoffs into Walmart and the apartment complex that's down those side road. Regardless of whether the traffic study, whatever it might show, we at CPE know the situation is already treacherous, and we believe that building Authentic Okemos would at the very least make the driving dangerous and for some unlucky drivers catastrophic. My son was in an accident at that corner, and that was well before all this new construction was built. A car smashed into the vehicle he was in. Moreover, the two-lane road cannot be widened with a protected woodlot on the east and Authentic Okemos on the west, and there's no back door out of Central Park Estates, so we would have no choice but to drive into the chaos. There's several other issues. I'm sure other people brought some of them up, but one of them is I noticed regarding the map that Continental Properties has shown at that conference at the library. is it replaces wetlands with, what's the name of, what's they call it, these little detention areas with water. Well, I was looking at similar detention areas at apartment complexes. Like today I was at one across the street from Frandor where it's no substitute for wetlands, to make a short story. It's very sterile environment. Aesthetically, it's no comparison to what would have been, what's already there right now. And quick little note, Continental doesn't even seem to be aware, when I talked to them at the that conference in the library, what they'll be, the wetlands they'd be replacing, because a building sits on the most substantial wetlands between Belvedere and Nassau and Columbus. And the rep I talked to wasn't even aware of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Seeing none, public comment is closed at 6:50 PM. Next on our agenda is item 6, the Township Manager Report. Manager Dempsey.
Thank you, Supervisor Hendrickson, and good evening, board members. Just a few things to report on this evening. One is a reminder that the next board listening session is coming up at the end of the month. So on Tuesday, September 30th, at St. Luke Lutheran Church on Van Adda Road, from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., we'll have our second of 3 listening sessions this year. Notices for those will be going out shortly to residents, but we, of course, encourage resident participation and hope that they can join us for that. Labor Day, as we all know, is sort of the unofficial end to summer, but not the end of summer fun. So the summer concert series continues through the end of the month, through September 24th on Wednesdays from 6:30 to 8:30, some overlap there with the Wednesday market day. So those are on Wednesdays. So we hope people can come out and enjoy some concerts for the remainder of the official summer season. And then this Saturday, September 6th, our Township Firefighter Local 1600, along with the Boy Scouts, will be sponsoring the 8th annual pancake fundraiser. So encourage people to come out for all you can eat, $7. Where can you have a breakfast that cheap these days? And the proceeds will be for 2 good reasons. One will be the scholarship fund for the Scouts, and the other one is for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. So hope to see lots of people there as well.
Where is it?
Oh, yes, thank you, I'm sorry. That's at 242 Community Church on Bennett Road. So hope to see us, and there's information on all of the events, of course, on the Township's website. Thank you.
Any questions for the manager? Seeing none, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is item 7, board member reports of activities and announcements. Any board members with reports of activities and announcements this evening? Clerk Demas.
I want to recognize Emily, who served as our deputy clerk. She just recently stepped down to pursue another job opportunity. So I want to thank her for all her work in the clerk's office and wish her the best. With her leave, this means that the deputy clerk position is open. So if you have experience with election administration and would be interested in working here in Meridian Township, we encourage you to apply.
Thank you very much. Trustee Lentz.
Thank you. 2 things. One, it is not my activity. I will not be out there soil testing and paving, but Ty Hart Road, an area that many residents have expressed concern over as one of the only non-paved roads in the township, is receiving treatment this week, and I'm excited to tell my friends who I know live in the neighborhoods and apartments right there, hopefully that area is going to be a bit safer for them. So for those looking out. And I do appreciate Mr. Opsimer for explaining the intricacies of what kind of surface we can expect there, because it is somewhat novel. I also wanted to express to everyone who came here with environmental concerns and issues, and everyone in Meridian is pretty passionate about environmental concerns. While our meeting tomorrow is canceled, we do have a monthly environmental commission meeting that I would encourage anyone and everyone to come to and see what the township is doing. And of course, you can express any concerns that you might feel about what is happening in our township environmentally, in our 2,000 acres of parks and land preserves. So,
Thank you very much. Other board members with activities and announcements? Excuse me. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to our next agenda item, which is item 8, approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda this evening?
So moved.
Support.
Been moved by Treasurer DeShane, supported by Trustee Wilson. All those in favor of the agenda, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. And I will point out, I grabbed this off of the table there, and we have one less consent agenda item than was listed on the agendas that were on the table. So item 9F has been removed prior to it coming to the board for final action here. So now we have the MAC Legends indoor golf liquor license transfer has been taken out. With that said, we move on to agenda item 9, which is our consent agenda this evening. On our consent agenda, we have a number of items, including communications with the Township Board, the minutes from our August 19th regular Township Board meeting, the bills and authorization for a change in Consumers Energy Standard lighting contract for some streetlights on Clinton to Mount Hope. We have 9 appointments to the Youth Commission. This is our inaugural set of appointments to the Youth Commission, as well as the 2025 Newton Road Park Pathway contract. And I did have one item to address in the minutes for whoever wishes to make that motion. On page 2, we're discussing the rooster regulation introduction, and there's a small typographical error. We lost the T in rooster, so it just says rooster regulation introduction. So it has that we have the spelling change noted in the motion if we could. With that said, we'll open it up to a motion on the consent agenda this evening.
Move the consent agenda with the amendment to the minutes.
Okay, it's been moved by trustee Wilson,
Support.
supported by clerk Demas. Any discussion on the consent agenda this evening? Seeing none, will clerk Demas please call the roll?
Clerk Demas, yes. Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Trustee Lentz?
Yes.
Trustee Trezise?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Supervisor Hendrickson?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is item 10A, Plan Unit Development 25-012, 3560 Hewlett Road. This is our public hearing for the evening. And so we have, to give a brief introduction for this one, our Director of Community Planning and Development, Tim Schmidt.
Good evening, Supervisor and board members. The request in front of you this evening is similar, in fact, identical to the one you saw in 2022 for the property located across the street from Okemos High School, formerly known as the Netzloff Farm. It would create 5 new buildable lots on the property, leaving the single-family farmhouse intact to be sold. Nothing has changed. Ultimately, the developer mistimed the application and allowed the previous application to expire accidentally. And so we are running this back through the process. But again, it is the exact same process or project that was proposed on this property in 2022 and approved. And so we can go into more details now or later, depending on the board's choice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Any members of the public who wish to speak to this topic specifically may do so at this time. Anyone wishing to address the board on this topic? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 6:57 p.m. Next on our agenda is item 11 for action items. We have 2 action items this evening. The first is item 11A, text amendment 2025-07, parking lot landscaping standards. For introduction, we have Director of Community Planning and Development, Tim Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. This request is back in front of the board after our discussion at the August 19th meeting where no major concerns were raised. At this point, the board, if they choose to move forward with it, would direct staff to publish the notice after formally approving it for introduction this evening. Again, to reiterate, this would update the landscaping standards in the zoning ordinance. This is the second of the 3 parts of the parking ordinance that we've talked about updating. And staff is currently working on the 3rd part with an eye towards bringing it to the Planning Commission later this year and get us about 3/8 of the way through the zoning ordinance at that point being updated.
Terrific. Board members, any discussion at this time? Trustee Trezise.
I move to adopt the resolution approving for introduction text amendment 2025-07 to amend the Code of Ordinances of the Charter Township of Meridian at section 86-758 to update the standards for parking lot landscaping in the township.
It's been moved by trustee Trezise. Does it have a support?
Support.
Supported by trustee Wilson. Any discussion at this time? Trustee Trezise.
I think we went through this a couple of times in some detail. I'm happy with the proposal. I think it will clarify and simplify the parking lot landscaping requirements and improve them considerably over what has been in place.
Thank you. Any others? Great. Well, I will say, as I mentioned how happy I was to learn a new word the last time around, that as someone with a very brown thumb, I went home and encouraged, said that our family maybe should consider a xeriscape right there at home. Because I find a way to, not keep any plants alive. And so I appreciate, again, that opportunity. But overall, this has been a pretty simple set of changes. Not that it won't be good to have made them, but certainly it will help to clarify for those folks who are, putting in parking lots and updating parking lots, that we have a very clear set of standards for them, and we'll have a more uniform look and feel across the township for those lots. So thank you very much for the hard work, both of the Planning Commission and our township staff to prepare this for us. And I'll be looking forward to seeing this enacted at our next meeting. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will Clerk Demas please call the roll?
Treasurer DeShane,
Yes.
trustee Lentz.
Yes.
Trustee Trezise.
Yes.
Trustee Wilson.
Yes.
Supervisor Hendrickson.
Yes.
Clerk Demas, yes. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much. Next action item on our agenda this evening is ordinance 2025-06 rooster regulations for final adoption. Director Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So this request, this ordinance change has been reviewed by the Planning Commission, by the Township Board, and as directed at the last meeting, we did publish this prior to tonight's meeting, intending for introduction. And so you are in a position this evening, if you so choose, to adopt these regulations. I can tell you that one of the two problem birds has been addressed. The other one we have not heard from in a while, so we expect that one is gone as well. But this will be a good change for us to be able to more quickly address citizens' concerns in the future.
Thank you very much. Board members, trustee Lentz.
I move to adopt the resolution approving text amendment 2025-06 to amend the Code of Ordinances of Charter Township of Meridian at section 86-368 to update the regulations for the keeping of roosters in the township.
It's been moved by trustee Lentz. Do we have a support?
Support.
Supported by treasurer DeShane. Any discussion?
The only thing I would ask is, I believe there was mention of a third rooster close to Lake Lansing. Is that the one that we've not heard from?
The Lake Lansing one has been addressed.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. Just on another note, I've talked to a couple other municipal government folks in the area, and they were all very happy to hear that we had this before us, as they've had similar problems, and it feels pretty par for the course for our township goals. So I'm happy to be making this motion.
Any further discussion? Trustee Trezise.
I think it's important to note this does not prohibit roosters in Meridian Township. It just prohibits where they can be and keep them out of neighborhoods and places where a number of people live close together as opposed to on a rural site. So that seems like a reasonable way to go.
Thank you very much. Any others? I agree. I think, this does not prohibit roosters outside of the urban services boundary specifically, which eastern third of our township enjoys the rural character of their area very much. We've heard about that at length during our master plan discussions, as well as many other times. And this would have no impact on, their ability to have and keep roosters. This is strictly for the areas of the township that are residentially zoned, And I think it makes perfect sense as we try to be good neighbors to one another, as I'm sure many folks in Meridian hope to do. The question is on the motion to adopt the text amendment to our code of ordinances to update the regulations for the keeping of roosters. Will Clerk Demas please call the roll?
Trustee Lentz?
Yes.
Trustee Trezise?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Supervisor Hendrickson?
Yes.
Clerk Demas, yes. Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is item 12A, the Plan Unit Development 25-012, 3560 Hewlett Road. Director Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Manager Dempsey, do we have to back it up?
Yeah.
You have control, and my mouse isn't working, so if you could just jump to page 219, that'd be sweet if it's open. If not, not the end of the world.
Go ahead, I can pull it up.
So briefly, just to reiterate, this is a 6-unit development on Hewlett Road, just across the street from the Okemos High School, previously approved in 2022 by both the Township Board and the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission then re-reviewed this in June of this year and agreed that there has not been substantial changes in the area or conditions in the area that would require us to make an amendment to the plan. It's page 219. Or changes to the conditions, and they also recommended approval back to the board. So to reiterate, it is 6 units. One of the units has the existing farmhouse on it, and approximately 50% of the property is set aside in common open space as per the PUD ordinance. They do need to finalize the drainage on the property, but they've got initial comments from the drain commissioner in the intervening 3 years that they are well on their way to doing during the site plan review, which is always the last stage for any project like this. And so from a PUD perspective, this certainly meets all of our standards. We've got no comment from the neighborhood other than ensuring that the drainage is not a concern, which we will continue to do once we get to that point. We just haven't gotten there yet for this project. So this would reinstitute the approval and allow them to get moving on construction hopefully this year. I think if you've been out there, you see a signs up ready for lot sales, hopefully sooner rather than later. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have about this project. And I know the developer is here this evening, should any questions arise.
Okay. Board members, any questions? Trustee Wilson.
I don't have a question, I do have a comment, that this went through a very thorough review 3 years ago, I recall it well, because it was an opportunity to repurpose that 1800s farmhouse for residents as part of this development, so I found that very interesting. It's a single access point, but for 6 lots, that's sufficient. I think it's a great proposal. It went through full approval unanimously 3 years ago, so I see no reason not to move forward at this time.
Okay. Other board members? As a part of this, if it were to move forward, they would be required to fill in the gap of that pathway on the east side of Hewlett Road that's on their frontage, would they not?
Absolutely, as shown on their plans.
Terrific. Thank you. I think that's another ancillary benefit that we would get from that, because currently it is a end point on either side of that property, and I think that's a good thing. The road department, I presume, has no issue, as Trustee Wilson alluded to, with the fact that they are slightly offset from the school driveway and just down the road from Lupine.
Yeah, I mean, there still needs to be a determination as to whether or not this is a public or private street, but that is to be determined with the road department. From a staff's perspective, I mean, candidly, I will always push for public streets because I've been in the situation where 20 years down the road, there is no ability to repave the street.
Yeah.
And we had a project in another community I was in where the road was essentially going back to gravel because there was no funds available for it. So, but with that said, I do believe this will end up being a private street just for purposes of meeting the road department's approvals.
Interesting.
They don't like little cul-de-sacs.
Sure. Okay.
To have a turnaround.
Right, yeah. Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Board members, are we feeling relatively amenable to the proposal as is? I only heard from a couple of folks, but this is going to be coming back before us at some point in the future, and the staff will need direction on whether or not to prepare a resolution of support. Do we see any nodding heads? I see general nodding heads in agreement. I think we're on a good path here then.
We will be back at the next meeting for final adoption.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. I think before we get into the budget, if we could take a 5-minute recess. It's 7:10, so we'll be back at 7:15. We'll stand at recess until 7:15.
Everything, 7 days completely.
All right, everyone, it is 7:17. And we are calling ourselves back from recess. And we have item 12B, the introduction of the township budget. Manager Dempsey.
Yes, so good evening again. So before you tonight, you should all have at your places the binder with the budget. So this evening, this is going to be very brief because at your next meeting, we'll provide a full presentation of the budget and go into it in more detail. Tonight was just to introduce it. Obviously, several of you have been through this process multiple times, so you're both familiar with the current format that we used again this year, as well as how the process works. But I also know that we have a couple new board members who are going through this for the first time. And essentially what the budget book provides to you is, number one, an overview of the budget. So there's a submittal letter that's provided from me that sort of summarizes all of the key funds of the township and some of the issues that we face. And I'll come back to some of the themes in a moment. And then it steps through different tables of an overview of our revenue as well as our expenses, and then provides basically a one-page breakdown of all the separate funds at a summary level. As you go farther into the document, you'll see things like our CIP plan and other data. And then at the very end, there is a detailed table. It's the line item budget for the entire budget. So it's in total 179 pages. So it's a fairly lengthy document. And I want to take a moment, to recognize the M team and their efforts in putting this together. One of the challenges that we ran into this year, of course, is that costs keep going up. We have some substantial issues out in the economy, one of which is the rising cost of healthcare, the impact of that, a 12% increase. We see some growth in taxable value, which is great, but we're also limited because of Proposal A and Headley, so we have those constraints. So when we looked at our initial budget this year, what I would call the status quo budget, so not really adjusting for any new positions, not looking at any significant promotions or changes in roles, we recognized that for the general fund, we had $1.6 million deficit. In other words, our expenses were exceeding our revenues by that dollar amount. So the team came together, every department, we had a number of potential cuts that we took from that, and we've laid some of that out in more detail in the description, and we'll talk more about that next week. So I want to recognize the M team for the work. But I really also want to recognize Bernadette Blondie, our finance director. Bernie did a great job putting this together, not just the numbers and working with the departments, but literally putting the binder together too. I'm always, it always impresses me in the local governments that I've worked in. Meridian Township is no different. Managers are working managers, right? They don't just direct people, right? They do the work. They do the work on a daily basis, and they step up and do that. And Bernie was an exemplar in doing that, putting this budget together. There are, I think, a number of things that both Bernie and I would like to see in the future as we look forward in terms of the budget, in terms of how we present it and how it's compiled, et cetera, to make it even more readable and more usable. But all the data's here, right? This is a transparent budget, to have a line item budget. It's all here, and we can walk through that and work with you on the questions over the next several meetings as needed to do that, which we plan to do. So again, want to acknowledge the team. You have the information here. We're happy if you have any questions this evening, that's great. If you don't, that's okay, because we realize we just dropped it in your lap tonight. But if there are areas you want us to focus on for next week, you can let us know anytime between now and then. But we'll obviously prepare that if there are focus areas that you want us to hone in on. But otherwise, we'll give, again, a more detailed overview next week. But this is the start of it, and for you, and we're looking forward to the discussion and the questions and being able to clarify where we can and to provide the information that's important as you make this decision. As I indicated in my budget letter, really when you look at local government, you look at state government and federal government, this is always really the most sort of critical of roles, and that is making sure that you take the fiduciary responsibility seriously, and we've done that as staff, and we know the board will do that in your decision as we go forward. Setting a balanced budget is really a critical thing, and we're happy to present this for the 2026 budget. So, with that, I'll stop, and again, if there's any initial questions or comments, I'm happy to engage, but otherwise, plan on more details for the meeting in 2 weeks on September 16th.
Thank you very much. Board members, so trustee Trezise.
Yeah, I have a question. What did you use for revenue sharing as a projection?
Yeah, so the revenue sharing is essentially where we've been at, right? It's sort of that consistent level. There's, looking at where sort of 25 has been at, our inclination was a small sort of increase. As I've indicated, I think in a communication last week, right now it's across the board with the state government, right? The House has proposed a double-digit decrease. The Senate was a 10% increase. The governor was a 4% increase. We try to be conservative with more of an inflationary approach to that. But I think the one thing, though, that those percentages, the good thing, I guess, for us is that on that percentage side of it, that's for statutory revenue sharing. That's a very small piece relative to our overall primarily constitutional. So we're a little bit more comfortable with that number and where that's at. Because that's, over $4 million. The statutory side is closer to that 250, 260 number.
Okay, thank you.
Treasurer Shane.
Yeah, in that regard, last year, all 1,240 townships got statutory revenue sharing, and the House budget that passed took all that away, but it didn't impact constitutional because it's constitutionally guaranteed to us. This is a very good budget. It's a very tight budget. I work with you from my department, others did, and it's not easy doing a budget when you start off with $1.5 million deficit. I know you work really hard on every position and every line item in this, and as did the entire M team. You do notice that overall we're reducing temporary workers by 10 positions. 6 of those are crossing guards. Who is funding the crossing guards at this point?
Yeah, so the crossing guard area is sort of a potential shift in philosophy. So what we're proposing there is to move that to a contract-based system. So one of the things that the police department has struggled with is the inability to hire people for those roles. So there's a contractor that's been identified that will provide sort of minimum staffing. They'll work with our current crossing guards and bring them on board, and then they'll have additional personnel to do that. We've really struggled with that over the years. One of the challenges, as you know, is that if we don't have a crossing guard show up or we can't fill that role, then we have to send out either a cadet or even an officer. So if it's an officer, it's taking someone out of a patrol vehicle, which at that time of day has been very critical because we've heard loud and clear from our residents. So we propose to go to this model where we contract, at least for 1 year, to try it. So it would reduce them as staff, but we do have cost, of course, on the contracting side.
And the same number of full-time positions, 174 across the board. And that's despite the fact our population is increasing, as we know from the new developments that have opened up. At least for 2010 to 2020, we went up 1% a year. And I'm confident we went up at least that much. 25 to 26 will go up that much with all the new developments. That means the employees we have to do that much more to fulfill the needs of our residents. The good news is we have very committed employees who are willing to put in the extra effort as public servants. So we're very fortunate to have the workforce we do in this township. Yeah. But anyway, overall, good. I look over the budget, and you've done a fine job with this in a very constrained budget year.
Thank you. Other board members with questions or comments? I'm going to lay a couple on you.
Okay.
I don't need any of these to be answered necessarily right in this moment, but maybe a good discussion for the next meeting. So a couple of comments on our fund balance. First of all, happy to see that it remains at about 43%, which is well above what the township had set aside or had requested by policy to set aside in our fund balance, which I believe is 25%.
It is.
So we're very happy that we've got a good fund balance in case of a rainy day. I did notice that this budget does use a fair amount of the capital projects fund that we had set aside. And that was a sort of a one-time pullout of the general fund a couple of years back. And it's been used to great effect on a number of projects. And I think that, what we have slated in this budget is no different. And in fact, 300,000 of what was projected may not actually happen if we don't get the state appropriation grant match. However, I do think it's important, either in this budget or at some point as we put together a 5-year plan as a part of our 2026 goals, to identify how we replenish that bucket. Because the number of capital improvements that we would eventually need to see is likely not going to decrease over time.
Right.
And so we're going to have to figure out a funding mechanism by which we can slowly start to put money back into that capital projects fund so we don't find ourselves without that if we need it. And then the second thing is the pension stabilization fund remains relatively static. Last year, or this year, I suppose, we paid out about $500,000 out of that. But in '26, we chose not to. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, so one of the things that Bernie and I have talked about is just the sort of the interplay between the capital projects fund, the pension stabilization fund, and then the general fund, right? Because altogether, it's part of the fund balance equation. And the general fund, and I note this in the letter, is now, the significantly higher number compared to the target of 7.5 million, right? So it's sort of a rebalancing, may be required, right, at some point. So I think that's part of the conversations we can have and discussion. I think, we played it a little bit more conservatively here because in order to get us to a balanced budget, we are proposing a use of $325,000 some dollars in general fund balance. So there is a use of that, although relatively small percentage of the overall. But I think what we need to look at is, again, how do we then sort of rebalance those dollars where they're allocated within each, and then what that sort of intention is with the dollars. Because one of the things, again, that we talked about was, we probably need to look at and have an analysis of, would we be better off, moving the bulk of the pension stabilization fund into the accounts, right? What's the differential on sort of what we're earning versus then what does that leave our overall fund balance at? And how much risk do we think we have? Again, it's sort of more of an investment decision, right? Do we leave it in our accounts with greater flexibility, or do we put it into the fund, send it on to MERS to get it invested at a sooner timeline, right? And then thinking about sort of what the calculus was historically and the intent of having that as a separate fund. So I think there's a lot there, and I think we can certainly discuss that in more detail.
I know that, my personal opinion is that at the very minimum, we could put in the previous year's interest and just, so that we're keeping it a net the same. It's a small amount. It's only $50,000 or $60,000, but at least we're continuing to keep something flowing at a bare minimum if we're not willing to move more of it at any time. But I think looking at whether or not it's more beneficial to just drop it into the retirement, in one swoop versus, the added flexibility is an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah, and certainly one, I think, as we look at the 5-year forecast next year, probably more pertinent to that necessarily than maybe having a definitive recommendation to alter our plan here this year, other than maybe the interest amount, right?
Okay. A couple other things that I noticed in the summary, the Parks and Recreation, the $50,000 that was being suggested for the cricket field.
Yes.
What is that actually being used for?
Yeah, so there would be a couple aspects to that. So depending on where the field's actually identified, one of the preliminary sites, for instance, they were doing wetland delineation to determine where the boundary might be, but then likely field improvements, right, to get it up to playing level quality. So depending on that site, that could be additional sort of grading to the site, could be, addressing sod issues, and then, et cetera, right? Making it a sort of a usable surface ultimately.
I asked because it seemed as though, from our conversations that we've been having in previous years about this, it seemed as though there may not be a suitable site available for that. And so, my question would be, do we have an active site that we're pursuing, or is this sort of just projecting that hopefully we find something?
Well, there has been a site that I think Director Wazinski has been honing in on a little bit more. It's still not a certainty. When we looked at the budget dollars, we knew that this year we wouldn't be expending what was budgeted in the current fiscal year. So we reduced that substantially. I think initially it was a $100,000 budget item. We halved it, recognizing that might not be something that's definitely going to happen, but.
Got it.
But not taking it out of consideration in its entirety, given the demand again.
Okay. On page 33 in our budget here, a couple of things that sort of stuck out as outliers. We talked about the crossing guards, so thank you, Treasurer DeShane, for bringing that up. But there was also, maybe it's not 33. Sorry, it's 34. There is a 64% decrease in the expenditures expected from the recycling center. And then similarly, in Parks and Recreation Administration, there's a 45% decrease in expenditures. Any idea why that is?
Yeah, we'll get back to you on those specifically, but a lot of times, some of our line items, those revenue dollars are, in absolute terms, rather small. So it could be a conservative budgeting issue, but don't hold me to that.
Okay.
We'll have a clearer answer next week for you on that.
Thank you. Yeah, and in this case, it looks like $110,000 for the recycling center and $100,000 for Parks and Rec. So those just jumped out as, whoa, I didn't notice anything changing in the staffing plan necessarily, so I was trying to figure out what that accounted for.
Yeah, we'll go back and look at how those were put together.
And then I don't know if it was a typo or if it was something that maybe I'm not understanding fully, but it appears as though in the accounting budgeting section of the general fund, we're going from 6 staff to 3.5. And maybe I'm not understanding fully. I thought we were adding a bookkeeper in this budget.
Yeah, so one of the things that the township has done is that our utility billing staff have always been allocated fully to that division. Because we're reallocating them, or half their time, to water and sewer fund, and then the other half to general fund versus 100% general fund, we created new divisions where those positions are allocated. So you'll see the addition of those divisions later in the document.
Got it, thank you.
And those staff, so the staffing number essentially remains where we'd have it.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the ARPA fund shows a fund balance of $155,000 at the end of 2026. We have to expend that, don't we?
By September 30th.
So I believe that is all the interest that we've earned off of it. It's no longer any of the remaining base. So that we have flexibility with that in terms of when we expend it and how that's expended. That's excluded, the interest earned is excluded from the initial grant dollars that were direct from the feds. So.
Okay. And then I think the last thing that stuck out initially was we paid off the central fire station early.
Yes, this year we're doing that, correct,
Yes.
defeasing that, yeah.
And there will be a fund balance of just over 11,000. What do you do with that once you reach the end of that?
Yeah, that's I believe that's probably from the arbitrage on the bonds. I think we have some flexibility there, but we'll have to double check. I don't know if the treasurer recalls the restrictions on this particular one or not, but we'll get an answer on that.
Thank you.
We've tracked arbitrage on the road funds, but the fire station bonds were issued in 2018, 11 or 12, and before my time, we'll look into that to see if we need to calculate arbitrage. Any interest you earn in excess of your costs, you have to rebate back to the federal government. But you can't also just sit on the money and not earn interest, they'll fine you that way as well. So you got to actively invest it, and then anything excess, you got to give back to the federal government. It's an accounting mess. We hired a firm that's done it for us for the road bonds. We may need to involve them now that we're paid off the fire station.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, overall, a really good job in a difficult situation. And, you know, the next year's is likely going to be just as difficult coming up, but I think this does a pretty good job of keeping our priorities that we had asked for while maintaining a level of fiscal responsibility that our residents expect.
Yeah. Thank you. And again, we'll get some clarity around some of the questions we had tonight. And again, if there are additional ones from the board, please let us know ahead of time, and or we'll have plenty of time in 2 weeks to discuss it in more detail.
Any other questions before we let Manager Dempsey go here? All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
I've got to switch PDFs on my thing here. Okay, next on our agenda is item 12C, the treasurer appointment process. So, board members, as we heard at our last meeting, Treasurer DeShane has announced his intention and it was accepted by the board to accept his resignation effective September 16th. Our attorneys have advised us that the 45-day window to fill that position begins on September 16th. So, because we have a little extra time, we can talk about this in advance, but that is when that begins. So what I've presented to the board this evening would be the Township Treasurer appointment review process. So we have basically two paths that we could move forward with. The process that is laid out in the memorandum here is what the board has elected to do in several cases, including with the appointments of a number of trustees over the last couple of years, and Treasurer DeShane when he was appointed back in 2018. And that generally includes opening to the public an opportunity to apply for the treasurer position, providing references, questionnaires, resume, et cetera, through an online application. A 3-member panel of board members from the Township Board being appointed to review any applicants that choose to apply after the 2-week window closes. That subcommittee would recommend 3 applicants to the board for interview, and we would conduct those interviews prior to our October 7th meeting. And we would hope to have on our agenda for that October 7th meeting for action the appointment of a township treasurer. The calendar that I've just laid out would meet the 45-day criteria that's required under state law, and would allow a treasurer to take office prior to our October 21st, 2025 board meeting. The other option would be if there's a candidate willing to serve and the board chooses to appoint that individual immediately, we can do so. There is precedent for that as well. That's how I was appointed to supervisor in 2024, and Supervisor Jackson was appointed that way as well in 2022. Whichever path the board chooses to move forward, we must appoint a treasurer by October 31st, 2025. If we do not, the county clerk is required under statute to call a special election, and at that time, we would have to fill the vacancy. Well, the vacancy would be filled that way. Candidates would be would have to put their name in and run for office, essentially. It is also worth pointing out that due to the timing of the vacancy, if prior to halfway through the term, whoever is appointed treasurer would have to run in 2026 for election for the remainder of the partial term. So that would be in August and November of 2026. And that term of office would run through 2028 when the rest of us are back up for reelection. So, with that being said, anticipating the likelihood that we would choose to go with the interview process, I've presented the memorandum with a motion to adopt the process of appointing a new township treasurer, including a subcommittee of myself, Clerk Demas, and Trustee Wilson as the application review committee, and adopting the questionnaire that you'll find on page 233 and 234 of the packet as the questionnaire that the respondents would have to complete. And so if the board is interested in moving forward with this evening, well, I guess the board would have to move forward with this evening in order for the schedule that I laid out to make sense. And so if we are interested in doing so, rather than appointing someone right now, then we would have to suspend our rules to take action on this item tonight. So with that, I open it up for discussion, and I will leave it to you all. Trustee Wilson.
I think the avenue to go would be to have the open process of advertising that this position is open, and then accepting resumes and associated documents for a period of time, and having a subcommittee review and make recommendations. The one thing that I'd like to encourage is that we bring up to 3 candidates to the board, because it's a pretty unique situation. We have someone who needs to have managerial skills, some financial background, but that's just half the job. The other half of the job is being on our team of the board. So we need someone who's got some experience at this type of a level in an organization. So that's the only thing I would change, is change the language to up to 3 candidates. Otherwise, I'm happy with the process as outlined.
Yes, thank you. I believe that the language in the process actually just says the top applicants.
That would be even better. Okay,
So I think we're there already. Good news.
great.
Trustee Trezise?
Well, I agree. I don't see any obvious choice to name to this position with the skills that are required, and so I think opening it up to the public to apply and doing it openly is the way to go.
Trustee Wentz?
Question for you, Mr. Supervisor. If the right candidate is not selected in the timeline necessary, that it becomes the county clerk's job to issue a special election, that election would not take place until May, correct?
I think that's the case.
Okay.
I think we'd probably want to verify that with Clerk Demas and Clerk Byram at Ingham County, but I believe it would be a May election in that case.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess it's a partisan position, so it might be May, August. I don't know the answer to that question.
Gotcha. Echoing the thoughts of the other trustees who have spoken, I'm in favor of opening it up to the public. With us choosing someone to join this team, I think it's very important that we get this done so that the citizens of Meridian Township aren't without a very important position for their, local tax collection. And so with that, I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes of this process.
Clerk Demas?
I agree with my fellow board members. I think we need to open this up to the public as soon as possible, make sure that we can get applicants, review them, and I would be interested in serving in the subcommittee, as I do work very closely with the treasurer's office, serving as clerk. So I would like to review that in the subcommittee, and I think that this process makes sense. I will look into if we do exceed that 45 days. I think that is very important to verify, and also making sure we're following everything correctly, maybe getting legal counsel advice as well.
I will also say, regardless of how we move forward this evening, and I appreciate Treasurer DeShane being willing to put off retirement until after summer tax collection is over, because there is a bit of a, need if there's a gap between treasurers for us to ensure that we have our ducks in a row in terms of where the responsibilities the treasurer would typically hold get dispersed for any period of time in which we are without a treasurer. And so I'd mentioned it to say that likely at our next meeting, we'll be seeing a resolution to assign those responsibilities temporarily in the case of the vacancy to someone else. And so just be aware of that as you're preparing for 2 weeks from now, that's likely going to be on our agenda as well. Any further discussion? Treasurer Shane.
About to leave this position, Trustee Wilson is right. It's a diverse position. Financial background is helpful, but actually being a good team player, both with the board and with the team she or he will work with, is very important. Working closely with the clerk, working closely with the deputy treasurer and bookkeeper, working closely with the UB. Many days, the treasurer is effectively the supervisor for all 4 of those positions, and what may become 5 because they're covering the counter and helping out UB when necessary, and UB helps out the treasurer's staff when necessary. So being a really good team player and good manager of people is important. Also, that person needs to be able to be very comfortable with the public, because the treasurer is the face of the township, as is the clerk. We're here 40 hours a week, and people come and they want to talk to us. They're upset, they have questions, and be able to approach them unhesitantly to answer their questions and never shying away from those is an essential part of the job. You've really got to like the public, you've got to like government and be able to stand up for it and be proud of what we do here and never apologize for it. You can apologize for the fact taxes are high, but as we've said before, 80% of those taxes come from outside our domain. They're the county's taxes that we have to explain to them. But it's really important this person be extremely good with people and have experience working with people, because that's the core component of the job, is managing people, working with the public. The financial background, we've got a very capable bookkeeper and bookkeepers in our current staff. We've got Robinson Capital to manage our investment funds, so that the heavy lifting, if you will, is done by the paid staff or our consultants. Part of the reason I recommended Robinson Capital 2 years ago was just for situations like this. There's a lot of money at stake here, and the only qualification to be a treasurer is to get more votes than the person who finished second. And you want to have some safeguards, some safety net there for that position to make sure that the money is always being watched and accounted for. In a sentence with Robinson, our investment funds are audited every month. They're checking the balances, they're reporting to the treasurer. The board could get monthly reports from Robinson if they so choose to. Also, working with we're very fortunate we have a finance director here who makes the job of being treasurer a lot easier than most township treasurers have. You are again, a daily auditor, if you will, for what's going on in the treasurer's office. That's an essential safeguard as well. So thank you for that, Bernie.
So I didn't hear any disagreement with the proposed plan to make a public process. Do we have a motion to suspend our rules this evening?
I move we suspend our rules and take this up for action.
Okay. Support. It's been moved by Trustee Trezise, supported by Trustee Wilson. All those in favor of suspending our rules, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. So we may take this up for action this evening. Do we have a motion? Trustee Trezise.
I move that the Township Board adopts the process for appointing a new township treasurer, including the appointment of Supervisor Hendrickson, Clerk Demas, and Trustee Wilson as the application review committee, and adopts the application for Meridian Township Treasurer candidate questionnaire.
Support. Then moved by Trustee Trezise, supported by Trustee Wilson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. So, Mr. Dempsey.
Yes.
We have adopted the procedure as proposed there. I believe there's some action for Director Titoff to make an application available online, and that'll be coming up tomorrow.
Yes, that'll be online tomorrow. It's already been prepared in the event that you chose to go in this direction, so we can move expediently. So that website will be live And then it follows the 3 items that need to be included as attachments to that. So we're able to move ahead, and then we'll get the word out and, do a press release and have other communications to promote it as well.
Great. Well, then let me be the first to say, members of our public, if you'd like to join the township board, we have a treasurer position that's about to become available, and you can find the online application process on our website starting tomorrow. So with that, brings us to item 13, comments from the public. I did receive one new green card this evening from Josh Nahum.
Dr. Josh Nahum, 1517 River Terrace, East Lansing, address but Meridian Township resident, I swear. I just wanted to speak very briefly to express my appreciation for Treasurer DeShane's work. I've been trying to be more civically engaged, coming to a lot of these meetings, and I really appreciated all the detail-orientedness of Treasurer DeShane. Many times I'm sitting in the audience going like, ooh, I wish somebody would ask that question. And I would hear that, voiced by the treasurer. And I just want to say, I really appreciated the feedback that you gave. I don't always agree with everything that you decide on, but almost always do. And I just wanted to say, as somebody who's, disinterested, sitting and observing events, I really appreciate the work that you've put in, and I really appreciated the contributions you made to the board. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak this evening? Seeing none, public comment is closed at 7:53 p.m. Next on our agenda is item 14, other matters and board member comments. Any other matters and board member comments this evening, Treasurer DeShane?
I may not be here for the end of this consumers' power discussion, but I think that proposal today is really exciting. It would allow the board to put into action our talk about sustainability and achieve the goal we set to be 100% carbon-free by 2030. For a relatively small amount, $65,000 is about 0.2% of our total $30 million budget. I think cash is going to be tight in the years ahead, and capital outlays for more solar arrays are going to be difficult for the township to pay for. So it is a cost up front, but we would achieve that goal we've been promising for the 9 years I've been on the board, and I think it would be a lofty goal. I don't think it would get any pushback from the residents, who most of whom share our same goal to become carbon neutral. It's a great opportunity for the township. It will free up cash for other things, and sure, it could be the return could be less, the cost could be greater. There's some unknowns to it, but it allows us to achieve this really important goal of being carbon neutral without the capital outlays. And we've got to have plenty of capital outlays required of this township in the years ahead. No, we're not producing our own solar power, but we don't produce our own electricity here either. Okay, we do produce our own water, but we don't manage our own sewer. That gets shipped to East Lansing for that processing plant. So we like to be self-contained where we can. I think in this case we are already producing 30% solar power. I think the 70% left, that consumers' opportunity is a great one. I hope the board at future meetings will adopt it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other matters and board member comments at this time? Seeing none, that brings us to agenda item 15, adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn? So moved. It's been moved by trustee Wentz. Any seconds?
Second.
Or will we stay here forever?
Second.
Supported by trustee Wilson. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the motion carries. We stand adjourned at 7:55 p.m.